What's up, Red Letter Disciples? It is Zach Zender here, and in a couple minutes, I'll be joined with my co-host, pastor and friend, Chris Johnson. The point of Red Letter Disciple is to challenge you to be a greater disciple of Jesus, no matter who you are. We believe that when all of us become the great disciples He's called us to be, the world can truly change. And if you're listening in real time, we are smack dab in the middle of March Madness. How's your bracket doing? So we've got our own kind of bracket we're doing on the show today, and it's this: the greatest junk food for a disciple of Jesus. And we're bringing Kevin Suh onto the show to help us. Kevin is in the food entertainment business, and last year he launched Sonic Speed Cafe, which combines video games, food, and experience all in one. So he's going to talk about how his faith plays a role in what he does, and we talk about the surprising impact that food actually has with faith in the lives of disciples. So it's going to be helpful and also like a really fun conversation today. You might get hungry, just a quick warning there. Hey, today's sponsor is Child Beyond International, CBI. I love the work that Child Beyond International does in Guatemala. This is a mission organization that is the most intentional overseas organization I've ever seen when it comes to rescuing the vulnerable. You know, the one that even other great organizations might miss. So I'd love for you to check out this organization and be changed. I believe you can be changed in just 10,000 minutes. And you say, why 10,000? Because 10,000 minutes is the exact amount of time spent on a 7-day mission trip. Okay, to be fair, it's 10,080, but we rounded down. You know what I'm talking about. 7-day mission trip. Child Beyond International has everything set up for you and for your church to experience a powerful overseas mission trip that will not only change the life of someone in Guatemala, but amazingly, these trips change the lives of the ones that go as well. So you and your church can be transformed in just 10,000 minutes. Truthfully, in my own life, I can point to the impact that overseas mission trips had on my life, especially in my faith formative years. But even now, as a dad, I love to take my kids on these mission trips as well. I think it changes my perspective. It really restores my purpose. And to me, it grows me in my faith, unlike any other experience I've ever had. And so if you're thinking about a mission trip and you want to lock in with a really great organization, Child Beyond International is that organization. Again, they're so intentional about changing the life of just one very vulnerable child, and you can be a part of that. So I invite you to check it out, their work at their website. You can go to childbeyond.org. Additionally, I'm going to be doing a free webinar with Pastor Jeff Mueller, who's the founder and president of Child Beyond International. We're going to have that on April 11th from noon to 1 Central. So if you want to be a church that has global impact and is really good at what Jesus was really good at, reaching the lost, Jeff's team at Child Beyond International gives you an incredible opportunity. And so I'll put the link to the webinar in the show notes for today's episode. But if you want to connect directly with them, you can go to childbeyond.org. Hey, thanks again so much for listening, all of you out there. Every conference I go to, I always hear people say, we listen to the podcast. And I love that. If you listen and you have not yet, would you do us a great favor and subscribe to our show or follow the show on whatever platform? And those ratings and reviews really do make a difference. And so we'd love for you to do that. Hey, without further ado, let's get to today's episode with Kevin Suh. Let's do this.
You know what, Zach?
What's up, Chris?
Wait, you want to try that again? You want to try that again? And we've only done this 67 times.
I'm already ready to get to the guest.
All right, so hey, listen. This next guy, he's got a TikTok page. He goes to like Disneyland and he eats food and he gets like 1 million views and 600,000 likes. This guy's entertaining. He's fun. He's a food entertainer, whatever that means. I want that job.
Yeah.
But tell him about Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Suh is a startup expert, a serial entrepreneur that is in the food and entertainment business.
Yep.
Last year, Chris, he launched the Sonic Speed Cafe, combining video games, food, and community all in one.
All of our favorite things.
Right. So we're going to hear about this. I'm just super curious. He's also a host of the Good Service podcast. Loves talking about faith, the service industry, the food industry, and of course, Jesus. So Kevin, it's awesome to have you on the Red Letter Disciple today.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow, that was really great, guys.
Yes, we work really hard on those bios. And so we're going to talk about some of the ventures you're a part of. But first, I have to admit, I am jealous of you because I have a podcast.
Yeah.
you have a podcast. I have a co-host. Begrudgingly, I have a co-host.
His co-host is food.
But on your podcast, you actually eat while you podcast.
This is amazing.
It sounds amazing. So
bring me a pizza.
Right? So tell me the pros and maybe the cons, though, of eating while podcasting.
Have you ever got anything all over yourself? Because you make those Sonic chili dogs, and they look delicious.
You know, honestly, we wanted to do it because the whole premise about good service, we wanted to just throw in a bunch of meanings into it, which is also, you know, you get good service at a good restaurant, right? So we want to really highlight local establishments in our area, which is the greater Los Angeles area. And the good part is, of course, we're discovering new food every day. We have really fun food partnerships with people, and it's a lot of great deliciousness that you get to hear on the podcast. Some of the hard stuff would be securing food every show. So it's like, we kind of want to mix it up, but sometimes we don't. So it's like, because it is difficult trying to get the food there on time. And I'm like super conscious about hospitality. So I hate cold food. So I'm always like thinking about that. How do I time it so the guest enjoys the maximum, you know, amount of flavor, things like that. But also, like, what's really funny is some guests forget that they're being videoed, and we put it on YouTube, we put it on Spotify. So what's funny is they're sometimes when they're off the mic, they'll just start chowing.
Oh yeah,
because they think that if I eat quickly, I could get back to the conversation. So they look actually pretty ridiculous. Or they're just like, yeah, absolutely. And they'll just like eat super fast and get back on. So yeah, those are some of the challenges. For sure.
You know, it's so funny. One of my wife and I's favorite things to do is just to, like, on a weekend, if we got some free time, to watch like the Food Network or whatever, where they're traveling around looking at restaurants. And I never thought that I would enjoy that. Like, why do I enjoy watching somebody else eat food? Because inevitably, at the end of 3 hours, I'm starving and I want something. But like, what is that with us that we want to like watch people go to restaurants and eat, and you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's like they're making networks. They're making networks because it's so compelling.
It is. It is.
All right, Kevin, best food you've had on your podcast thus far.
Or maybe give us like a few of the best, because it might be tough to say the best.
The best is hard to say because we really do try to pick different genres of food. I like to lean on non-heavier foods, actually, even though, you know, I am large by design. I am a bigger guy on purpose.
Right.
I would say I've really, really enjoyed, oh man, this is like there's just so many meals that we've had on the show. So this is because I'm a little biased. This is a friend of mine. I like this Korean barbecue place to go type place, which is called K-Bop in Monrovia. And the reason why in Monrovia, California, doing a little plug for them, but we have
so many listeners in Monrovia.
So we've dominated.
I know.
We've dominated Monrovia.
But it's just because, you know, if you guys have ever had Korean barbecue, it's like this whole sit down ordeal where you have to sit, cook the food in front of you, and kind of like eat around the table. However, they've somehow made it to-goable, and so the meat quality is super high, where it's out of a little bowl. So I really enjoy that.
But how do you do that to go? I don't understand. What do they give you, a candle?
No, they have just like a really good meat source that they're not like telling anyone, and so it's like it's just good.
That's
awesome.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, bro. So everywhere you see Jesus in the Gospels, it feels like there's food.
Exactly.
So I think it's fitting that on a discipleship podcast, we're talking about food and faith. And so talk to me about where you see food and faith intersecting in your world.
Yeah, amen.
And have you ever multiplied fishes? Have you ever had anything like you took a kid's lunch?
You know, there's been some miracles for sure. I think one of the coolest things is if I meet someone for the first time, if I meet anybody, if there's food involved, you don't even have to talk to each other. You already feel comfortable. You're eating together. It kind of breaks the ice, especially if it's awkward. I think it's one of the fastest way to build community is around food. I think it's like a wonderful like stickiness that brings people in. So I love the fact that I get to be part of that. and people know me as the food guy. So I get to really just be this catalyst of stickiness, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so not everybody, though, has a food entertainment business or podcast where they're eating food. So what do you think for kind of the average everyday follower of Jesus that obviously eats every day, probably, unless they're fasting, which is also great.
Also great.
And my least favorite spiritual discipline of them all, I'm not going to lie to you. Right. But what would you say to the average disciple out there that how they can utilize, honestly, food in a more everyday setting or ongoing setting to actually help, I don't know, spur someone else on to who Jesus is?
I love that question because the way I found faith is actually through food. There was an older brother of mine that's sadly passed away early, and I learned hospitality from him, right? And so what was beautiful is I wasn't a believer that wanted to come back to church. Like I grew up Christian, but like I just didn't know God, and so he would bother me every Sunday with free meals as a poor college kid. I'm going to show up. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? A free meal? And it's like a good meal? Yeah, maybe I'll come by, you know? And I think one of the cool things a really simple thing is just focusing on the hospitality of opening your home or opening some time and investing into people, not because you're trying to get anything back, right? All you're really doing is extending that hand because somebody in the beginning of your faith extended their hand to you. So it's really just replicating that. And food is just a good medium.
That's cool.
It's interesting that you say that. I planted a church about a year ago, and we have a bunch of people under 30. And every month we do a potluck. And I have a bunch of old school potluck. Yeah. But I have a bunch of dudes that are really good, like slow smoking barbecue. And last time we brought in 2 briskets. We had 3 pork butts. Wow. We had chicken. And now every time I do my potluck, my attendance goes up 30%. Like, I mean, and it's like all exactly what you said. Like these, college students are like, oh, when's your next potluck? I'm like, I do church every week, yeah, but when's your next potluck,
Yeah, so. That's right. That's awesome.
Kevin, did you know that I attempted, we failed my church when we were in Florida. We attempted to break the Guinness World Record for the largest potluck in the world.
What?
Yeah. And it was a cool event because we ended up raising a lot of money for a food pantry. I think we ended up getting like 1,400 people.
It was huge.
It was 2,000. The funny thing, though, is maybe I'd like your potluck, Chris, but I don't actually, as a pastor, love potlucks.
Yeah.
Because I'm a pastor, and so I have to serve and go last.
Yeah.
And all the good stuff, if there was any good stuff, was picked over.
Right.
But typically, when people do potlucks, they don't bring that great of stuff.
I don't know, man. We've ramped up our...
And the food is cold by the time I go through. So
you got it. Well, listen.
So anyway, I failed on a world record attempt. Well, I may not be at a potluck again in the future.
The reason that you don't like potlucks is because you tried to do the Golden Corral of potlucks, and there's no good food at a Golden Corral. I'm trying to do the Ruth's Chris of potlucks and get people there, baby.
Yeah. Well, I guess we have no chance at a Golden Corral sponsorship on this podcast anymore. But anyway, I think that's super cool. And to bring it back, like that is awesome that your older brother did that for you and opened up your home. And so why is hospitality? Because I'm always like, let's look to Jesus as the root answer for how to be disciples, because he came and he modeled for us. Yeah. And so when you look at the hospitality of Jesus, especially modeled from someone like your older brother, like what are some lessons in hospitality that all of us can learn?
I think definitely, I think it's really I could just speak out of my experience is that it immediately, I always think of the newcomer. I think of the newcomer because like as someone new, especially at a larger group gathering or a larger church, it's so frightening. I'll be honest. Like especially if you're a new believer or you just don't really know God yet and you're just kind of stepping into something like that. You're like, when Jesus was doing this, he's about to radically change your life. You know what I mean? Like how frightening is that? Like just leave everything and come with me. Like that's nuts, man. Yeah. And so the fact that that's the ask, the way that the hospitality part comes in is I always think of the newcomer and I think about where I was as someone new. What did that feel like? What did that feel like in the sense of my anxiety or fear or whatnot? And so one of the main rules that I really live by is just trying to drive that understanding, empathy, and comfort, like right into it as you're opening up your home or opening up whatever it is.
Yeah. So always be thinking about that new person when you think about hospitality. We were all that at some point in our life, whether we've grown up with faith or not. We've all had chances to think about it or to reflect or to deconstruct or reconstruct. And you never know how much, hospitality. I think that's so important.
Well, it's like the first thing about the first time you walked into the church as the college student, right? Like you're like, where else do I go where we just open up with song and everybody else knows it? You know, if the hospitality's not there, then you're not going to come back. All right. So a few years ago, I went to Manhattan. And, you know, when you're walking around Manhattan, they sometimes have those generic cheesy characters that pop out at you. It's like an Elmo with 3 eyes and they want to take a picture with you and it's like $20.
You're saying Elmo with 3 eyes?
I'm just, you know, they're pathetic looking costumes.
Oh, okay.
My point is Kevin actually has a legit, and I'm curious about this, a cafe based on the beloved Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Any of us are like, man, I grew up with Sonic the Hedgehog chasing the gold rings. I mean, that's good stuff. And so I want to know, how does a guy in food make a deal with the Sega Corporation, that's a worldwide corporation, to start a food entertainment company called Sonic Speed Cafe?
And what the heck is it? Yeah.
Love to dive into that a bit. Again, like, I feel like a lot of that is based on relationships, right? We've been building relationship with brands for like a few years now. And my partner, Andy Wynn, he's one of my partners on the project. Philip is my other partner there. And so Andy had relationships with a few brands around the Sega company. He's my partner. And so they kind of started talking about it early, right? Yeah. They started talking about, hey, what would it be like if we brought chili cheese dogs that Sonic the Hedgehog eats, like in the movies, in the cartoons? What if we brought that into real life? And we just kind of started ideating and dreaming a little bit with them. And so it was like a pretty long process of dreaming. And then eventually, after, you know, some awesome conversations, we have the chili cheese dog restaurant today, which is currently a moving pop-up. So we don't know where we're going to go next, or I just can't say it yet.
How hard is that, by the way? How hard is that to set up a pop-up restaurant, and how long is a pop-up in place for?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult.
I bet. Because that looks incredible inside. It doesn't look like a temporary. I've seen your pictures. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we pride ourselves on like premium pop-ups, meaning like we don't just put like a sticker up. We don't put just like one label on something. We go all out. Like, so we make it look like a permanent establishment. Our model, we try to stay at locations anywhere from 3 to 5 months. Sometimes it is shorter, depending on, the first pop-up was only 6 weeks long. So like it really depends on the location and, you know, what opportunities there are, and depending on the brand too. So.
Gotcha. And so since you have such a good connection with the Sega Corporation, I'm just wondering if you could talk to your friends over there, and I would do season 7 dressed as Sonic completely for a very low fee, just so you know.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
We would have to ship those costumes.
That's fine. That's fine. You guys can pay for it, and I'll handle the rest. Thank you.
So if I walk into a Sonic Speed Cafe, a food entertainment business, like what's different or what's unique about it, as opposed to, you know, any old restaurant or even pop-up restaurant that might come up?
Yeah, so we focus on immersion and we focus on exclusivity. So meaning, we really want people there physically as much as possible. They can engage online, and we also create like exclusive merchandise just for that pop-up.
Oh, wow.
And so everything is a collectible, including the packaging. So we make it very detailed to anything you can really buy, take home. You could technically, there is a secondary seller's market for all that stuff too. So we create that energy and immersion. So I want you to walk in feeling like you're in a little bit a part of that world, and you get to also immerse in the story of Sonic the Hedgehog. You get to try the entire menu, and then you get to take a bunch of cool stuff home.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are really into the Sonic. It's huge following.
Yeah, I'm curious, crossing back over into the faith space, what unique characteristics of the Sonic Speed Cafe might be wise for us to know as disciples? Like I heard you say a couple words: immersion, exclusivity, and so are those things that, as ordinary everyday disciples, are important for us, or is that nope? That's the food entertainment business, and that's separate. How do those intersect at all? I guess is my question.
Yeah. So the way I love to talk about my work in where it intersects in faith for me is I've been on this long journey of what does a gospel-centered business look like? Meaning, regardless of the widget or service that you sell, as a leader, as someone that's building my teams, something that's been beautiful that God's been teaching me is that I have a relational God, and he just wants relationships with me. And just that way, all of my staff, whoever I work with, relationships are everything, not just the ROI, not just the outcome. Sometimes, or many times, especially in the recent years, I've had to make decisions that make no sense financially. And I hope not too many people listen to this, where it was more focused on really the individual. Like I care more about, hey, I really love like this individual. I want to grow with them. They might not be the best performing employee, but there's just something about them that they need to be here. I'm always asking God, where is your work? And take me there. And so I don't look for these things, like even today, I know it's this really random space of food and entertainment, but I ask myself every day, like, God, like, is this your work? And do you want me here? And the reason why I'm so adamant to ask that every day is because if it's me, then I need to stop.
I just remember in the Garden of Eden when Eve ate from the tree of hot dogs, and I...
Wow.
No.
Is that what it was?
No. Nothing. I got nothing.
I got nothing.
But I saw that picture. That I'm so serious though. Right before we logged on, I went to the Sonic Speed Cafe, and somebody on Instagram was posting pictures of the chili dog. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. I just want a chili dog right now.
I got something from that though. I think it's really awesome that you're asking, like, where are you at work, God, and how can I just be there? So. Funny that where God is at work is through Sonic, video game, and food.
Yeah.
And that's amazing how God works. But I think there's a lot of other people that I think as well, no matter where you are at work, like you can be a disciple and you can be in your case, gospel-centered. Like, how do I create this? So talk to the person that's maybe like, I don't know if I'm in the right spot right now. And I'm not sure work-wise I am where God wants me to be, but yet they're still there. And I think sometimes we don't always maximize the places where we are. So what would you say to the person who's working right now and maybe unsure if God is, if they're really placed where God wants them to be in this season?
Yeah, I would say one of the first steps to that is ask yourself, like I would take some time to be still with God, because we're always moving. That's what today's society makes us do. But I would really take some time to be still and really, really check your heart of how much you love God. Like, do I really love God through and through? And with that, as you are in a love relationship with the Lord, really ask these questions of, where are you working? Like, where are you working? Not me. But where are you working? Because naturally, I was born just like you guys in the big, in the city, and what the world tells me is, hey God, I have this thing I want to do. Can you bless me in that thing? Or, hey, is this your will? Can you give me a map to like how to do this? Honestly, right? That's sure. I think one of the natural things to say is, you know what, Jesus, you're going to show me the way. That's not what he says. Jesus says, I am the way. And if that's what God says, then do that first. And then, where's your work, God? And I know that may sound like heavy, but it gets lighter as the more you fall in love. And that's just what I found to work for me. And I really try to be honest and obedient as much as possible. And that's the hardest part, right? So
yeah. That's great. When you talk about food entertainment, we've touched on the food side of it a little bit and how prevalent that was in the life of Jesus. Do you see Jesus as an entertaining God, a fun God? Like, how does that play? Because I think there's a lot of people, when they view God, they don't necessarily view him in that way. And so I'd just love to hear your thoughts on, when you look at Jesus, is there anything to the entertainment side of even him that would be compelling for us as disciples to show others?
Sure. And I think I love this question too, because I have these Bible studies on Monday nights that kind of spurred out of nowhere. Like God created this Bible study. It's, and I'll get to that part a little later just because it's a story in itself. But from what, again, just knowing the characteristics of God and who Jesus is they create, right? They're creators. And I think leaning on the creator mindset, just of entertainment in general, comes from a lot of creation. Like people love being artists. They love to create, design, and do different things. And so the entertainment part to me really comes from just allowing myself to like dream and create and do things with my team that's a little bit outside of the box. And so we really enjoy and love that. And so I'm always telling my team members, hey, go to a museum, go eat some different food, take a walk somewhere, just to like just be in the presence of the Lord and just allowing yourself to be a creator yourself. And that's really how I'm kind of built as well. That's why I'm like a weird entrepreneur. I'm always creating things. I'm always building things. Because honestly, I think I get those characteristics from God. I want to create. I want to build. I want to just do beautiful things. And so that's just part of who I am. And that's how I see the entertainment sector and world, how it intermingles with who God is and the characteristics of who he is.
That's cool. I love that you kind of foundationally base that entertainment in, at the end of it, like it is creative work that a lot of times bring entertainment. So and I believe that everybody is a creator. If we're created in God's image, like we were and he's a creator, we are many creators as well. What do you have any practices or anything that you would kind of help others who don't feel like they're creative, maybe to get those creative juices going or to be thinking about things differently? Like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, it goes to the core of childlike faith. Like it's not like saying you need to be childish. That's fun too, but that's not what this is.
I deal with it a lot, and it's not always that fun,
Yes, I see. But no, but it's really just, we all remember what it felt like to be on the playground, going outside, playing, kicking rocks, just really being in that purity of just creative thought and just letting your imagination go. And a lot of us, for me, speaking for myself, like there's many years that I just wasted because I didn't take time to pause and allow myself to be creative. I was just running. I was just like, I got to pay the bills. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'm just like stacking my life with all this nonsense, but I'm doing that so I could just get back to doing the simple stuff. It's like crazy. Anyways, but that's a practice that I would really suggest to folks, is just going back to that just original design of like who you're supposed to be. Just take a moment, go do something that you did when you were a kid and just really enjoy it,
That's cool. Chris, what would you go back to?
No, when you were talking about that, that's so funny. Like I just literally had deja vu about how excited I would be, like running out to the playground, like after class and playing a game of kickball with my buddies, like in elementary school. Like I hadn't thought about that for years, but like there was no concerns. There was no responsibilities. All you had to do was kick the ball as hard as you could, and run and have fun. Like I think that a lot of times as adults, like we become so cynical and we just, we lose that childlike wonderment and that faith that Jesus talked about. So that was cool. Yeah.
So your podcast, Good Service, it's really helping people become more effective, I suppose, at serving, especially in the industry, the food industry, service industry. Like, do you feel overall like the service industry is getting more or less effective at actually doing what they're supposed to be doing?
And it's so competitive. It's so competitive, man. You got into one of the most likely to not succeed businesses. You really did. It's that in childcare, or is what fails the most in America.
It's true. No, it's true. I've heard some crazy statistics nowadays where it's 50-50 your first year as a restaurant, and then it's 70% failure for your second year.
That's crazy, man.
Wow. I think it's worse now. But, Oh, good service, by the way, it's really anyone in any industry, but we do focus it on the food, but because we really want to, kind of like you guys are just like regular day faith, I love that. I love that, actually, that you guys do this. But anyways, going back to the question, the industry right now is in a lot of pain, right? The pandemic happened. It never recovered. And there's more restaurants closing now than even during the pandemic because the money is dried up. There's nobody really helping. So a lot of mom and pops are shutting their doors. And in certain states, it's worse than others.
Yes. In your state.
Oh, yeah. I mean, California is literally the worst of it because minimum wage is up to $20 for any restaurants that have 60 plus locations, but that still affects all restaurants. Right. So,
and food cost is through the roof.
Insane. Like I can't even, if you guys were to come here and just spend a week on just living here.
Yeah.
You would look at your wallet going, why do people live in California? And it's true. I ask myself that every week. But
I have a lot of friends that have, they moved out to California. They tried it out for a few years and they're like, after the taxes and the food costs, everything, they're like, I love the place, but I'm out. And starting a business there is like, wow, that is a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how can everyday disciples, because I think part of my rub with Christianity in our nation is that we've created a lot of believers, but very few followers. And there ought to be a discernible difference between someone who professes a faith in Jesus and the outer fruit that they bear. And sadly, many of the studies show there's just not. Yeah. And so when it comes to, the service industry or the food industry as a whole, like how can we stand out? Is it big, bold things, or is it just like creating gospel-centered businesses and more behind the scenes and showing up with a smile and being responsible and doing things on time? Or how can a Christian stand out, I suppose, in as a disciple of Jesus in the service industry?
Yeah, I think there's like an order to things, meaning we want to do the flashier stuff naturally. Like I want to do the big, bold things because it makes me feel good, right? It makes me think, oh, I'm important, or I matter to the kingdom, or I am this tool for God, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I used to think that way for many, many years, and I take full, I'm very open about that for many years. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to be this like awesome thing for Jesus, and look at me, like I'm a soldier, a general for God, whatever. That was all nonsense. And what was real, is to fight that urgency of importance and self, like whatever that was, maybe I needed to just really find identity. Yeah. But I think what really changes the heart is my utmost daily relationship just with God. And so what I mean by that is before I go do the great works, I got to really get me and God right. And I'm going back to like, I got to just understand what my relationship with him is and how much I care about being in love with him. Yeah. And if I can get that right, then there's something that an awesome, one of my buddies, it's a pastor out here, Pastor Harrison said, and he said, we all always talk about boldness, be bolder in faith, right? And we want to talk about God more out there. However, holiness gives boldness its bite. Ooh, and there's so much truth in that, because the more I am aligned with God and walking with him on a daily basis, my boldness it is way more effective. It is timed correctly because it's not me doing it. I'm just a vessel for the Lord. And literally, I get out of that mindset that I'm doing anything. It's really God's doing it all. But that's hard to comprehend without the relationship intact.
I think about that too, like from scripture, you know, Jesus would go out and he'd heal a bunch of people and he'd be preaching and then he would just disappear, you know, and he would go pray for hours. He would pray overnight. And he's like, I just see him as like recharging, right? Like, I got to recharge. And he always constantly did that. He would go off by himself, pray, get good with the Father, and then go back out and do miraculous things. So, I mean, what you're saying is 100% scriptural. So
I love that. So holiness gives boldness its bite. Is that what you said? That's cool. That's even got that food imagery. In it.
Bite.
I like that.
I totally keep that with me. I stole that from Harrison. I'm like, I'm gonna keep that.
I heard you give him credit, so you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
But I also think like yes, I'm all for the holiness, like that in our lingo, our targets that we talk about. We have 5 discipleship targets, and our first one is being. It's just being with God, and that informs everything else. All of the doing comes out of our being. But it's in the doing, the boldness, that I think people see. Like they don't see the root of it; they see the fruit of what you do.
Sure.
And so how would you encourage someone to, obviously, let's make sure we're pursuing holiness and getting in relationship. That's what I've heard already. But once we have that, like what are the steps then to take all of that and actually be bold? And I would say be the person God, for you, Kevin, has called you to be. Like what are the steps to get to that boldness so that others can see that?
One of it really is I mean, we're called to do this. Like we are like, that's something that I think we have to accept, is that we're not supposed to just sit in church. Like we're not supposed to just get our Sunday experience and then, cool, my family's good and I'm living a good life. You know what I mean? Like that's not it. That's not it. We are called to go. You know, I think of, I wrote this down to Matthew 10:7-8, right? We're kingdom bringers, right? So literally we're called to go bring the kingdom of heaven to people. Right. That is our job to do. So practically, I think one of the things that I started to do really early when I really started finding my relationship with God and taking it seriously was I would, in my own way, take small steps of boldness, meaning practically all I did was, okay, well, there's a thing that I do. This is like my line to people, and anyone could steal it. It's all good. I as I meet somebody, I ask God, I pray internally as I meet them, God, if you want me to talk about you, give me boldness in this conversation. And so I do that before I meet anybody. And we just start hanging out. And then God does this thing where I feel it in my gut. Like he just does it. Not all the time, but sometimes I feel it coming. And when that happens, my line is, hey, do you love God? I always start with that question.
Do you love God?
I just go, do you love God? And it's so abrupt that they go, what? And I'm like, yeah, just, do you love God? He's just like, yeah, I do. Or what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, I mean, I love Jesus, man. That's like a big thing for me. I walk in faith. I was just curious. He goes, oh, and then they'll tell you what they believe or not believe or whatever it is. But at least the conversation's there. And then if it goes further, then a seed is sown. If not, they at least know where you stand.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that's hard. So definitely take your time with it. There's other ways to do it too, but prayer, petition, man, and everything.
That's good, bro. I love it. And I think that, taking those bold steps, once you do it once and then twice and then 3, like the only thing that's going to get you more and more capable of continuing to be bold is just doing it. Not that you're ever going to be fully comfortable with it. I think that's the lie, is like, that we're ever comfortable doing bold. No, it's not. It's like, that's where the Holy Spirit comes in, and he's our great comforter. And so we're the ones called to be faithful to that. So, so great, man. So what's next for Kevin in just your journey in the food entertainment business?
Oh man. There are a lot of conversations for different projects that's coming up.
Is it true that you're starting Pac-Man, the restaurant?
Which would just have fruit?
That would make so much sense. Actually, that makes so much sense.
Dude, you should do Pac-Man and it's faux. And then every once in a while you throw out strawberries. And if you get them, you get half off your price. I got some ideas. I'll come as dressed as a ghost.
I got some ideas.
Yeah, we'll talk ideas offline. Yeah, we can't give this gold to everybody.
Right.
No,
Frogger the restaurant.
I think in this season for me, I wanted to just talk about the Bible study thing real quick, just because it's so crazy. Is that March of last year, there was 4 guys and 1 girl. We got together and said, hey, every Monday, let's just meet, read the Bible. And it's not associated with any church. We all go to different churches, but we just wanted to meet just to do additional reading and prayer. Really simple. And the next week, it was 8 people. The next week, it was 15 people. The next week, it was 20 people. And now today, every Monday night, we get anywhere from 50 to 70 people a night.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
All we do is just read the word, and then we pray for one another in smaller groups. That's it. It's really simple format. And we didn't do that. God did that. God literally goes, hey, just do this, be faithful, be obedient. And he just does things. And the reason why I bring that up is there's an analogy that was told to me. I'm going to just keep giving flowers to other people. Matt Whitlock here in Southern California, another pastor, he says something like that made so much sense to me, which going on the everyday believer, right? And taking that action. He said in church today, in a lot of churches today, this is him as a pastor, this is how he felt. In church today, there's so much light, because we're said that we're the light, right? There's so much light in one room that we're all blind. We have so much salt, we're over seasoned. And I'm just like, whew. And his focus has been, we need to get out there. We need to go to where the people are, where they need you. And this Monday night thing has been incredible because it's people from not church people, just maybe not even fully Christian or non-believers. They come in here just to get prayed on, just to hang out, because it's good community in East Los Angeles. That's it.
Nice.
It's people that won't stab them in the back, steal their money, or do something weird, or do drugs, or whatever. We're just regular folks that pray on a Monday night in a work week. And it's been so powerful. And that's what God does.
And I think that's so cool. Just it sounds like it's just the basics, right? It's word and prayer, and every time you open God's word, it always accomplishes what he wants it to accomplish, and it's doing obviously some great things. And I just feel bad for the person that opened up their home, that now they need to house 70 people on a Monday.
That's rough.
we do it in an office now.
There you go. I would assume it probably moved.
Yeah, it's the same office at where we film Good Service Podcast.
Yeah,
which is also, congrats, by the way, for doing this for so long. We're learning a lot about it. And
it's work. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it's been beautiful. So
I've got an idea that I think is great for you if you want to go the biblical route and be a little bit more. It's John the Baptist theme.
Oh, locust and honey?
Locust and honey.
Oh, yeah.
Locust and honey.
You come out in a camel hair jacket, and you just you don't shower for
You have a John
weeks.
the Baptist looking character that looks like he's going to be in a mental institution.
Right. And you just do locusts and honey.
Anyway, we'll talk offline.
We'll talk offline.
We've got a lot of these.
We've got a lot of ideas.
That could be a granola bar.
Anybody out there that wants to take JTB bars to the next level?
Do you know how much protein is in a handful of locusts? I'll tell you what, it's a lot.
Baptist bars. There we go.
There we go.
I love it. All right. We're going to carry this forward, but
we got some ideas.
We've had such a fun time. We ask all of our guests this question because we want this to be challenging and we want to spur people on to greater discipleship. So if you could challenge all of our listeners, practically one thing they can do this week to be a greater disciple of Jesus, what's the challenge for them?
Whew.
Yeah.
Whew. I do have a challenge.
Come on.
Because this small practice actually changed my life. And you could start easy, but I challenge you guys this week is every day for 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes is kind of hard, but 10 minutes, turn everything off and get quiet with God. Don't pray. Just stay silent and just be with him.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic because we are so addicted to screens and electronics.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times that is tough.
Yeah. So
right?
listeners, if you take that Kevin's challenge on and you're going silent for 10 minutes a day, every day, let us know after those 10 minutes are over. Hashtag Red Letter Disciple, and we want to encourage you along the way and support you. And that time of solitude and silence, yeah, God's going to do a mighty thing. We believe that. So awesome. All right, Mr. Chris, what you got for Kevin today?
Okay, so before I get to the game, Kevin, I really think.
Let me say, I know what he's going to do. He's going to pitch another idea.
I really think that you've missed out on some low-hanging fruit when it comes to video games. Listen, this one's free. I'm not even going to only 2%. 2% of annual revenues. That's all I'm going to do. Dude, you missed out on the best one. Burger Time, the restaurant? Come on, bro.
I mean, it doesn't have that big of a fan base, bro.
Wow, this is getting serious. Both of you are tossing bros at each other.
We'll go Pac-Man. We'll go Pac-Man the restaurant.
Yeah. Pac-Man.
All right. Pac-Man's fine.
There's bigger fans.
You have a huge following on TikTok. You produce these videos where you're eating delicious food and you get millions of likes and it's incredible. So I have proclaimed you the expert of food today.
Yeah.
All right. And we are in the midst of March Madness when this episode drops.
Yep.
People love brackets.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You love brackets.
I love a good bracket.
We have created a bracket for you, Kevin. It is the March Madness of junk food. You are going to, we went to millions of websites, scraped them with AI and bots, and we have seeded the top 8 junk foods. Now, Zach is not a professional when it comes to food, but we're going to take his input, but yours is the final.
Yeah, so I'll say what I think.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
And then he'll give us the correct
What
answer.
Zach says really doesn't matter. We are looking at what you say.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
that's
fine.
All right, so let's go. The #1 seed, according to multiple websites, of the #1 junk food in America.
Okay.
Nacho cheese Doritos, that's the #1 seed. Now, the upstart underdog looking to defeat the #1 seed would be the 8th seed Cheez-Its. So Cheez-Its versus nacho cheese Doritos. Zach, let's go to you real quick.
I like that they're both in the cheese category.
I know.
If I only had to get one.
Right, you're on a desert island. You're on a desert island. Yep.
I gotta go the underdog Cheez-Its.
What?
None of the cheese nips or the cheese crisps or the cheese anything else. I'm a huge Cheez-It fan, and I also love to smoke them on my smoker for 2 hours.
Oh, come on. All right, Kevin, let's go to you. What do you think?
I got to learn about that smoking trick. But anyways, I agree on Cheez-Its because...
Huge upset in the first round.
Man, if you're a family man, your kids will choose Cheez-Its most of the time.
I'm saying you're on a desert island all by yourselves, and somehow your kids aren't there. All right. Okay, we'll go. Let's go. All right, the #2 seed, barely. Wow, what an upset. We already lost the #1 seed. All right, #2 seed, Oreos.
Yeah.
Not double stuff, just the regular ones, versus the #7 seed, peanut M&Ms. All right, let's go to you, Zach.
That's great. If it were caramel M&Ms, I would go the M&Ms, but I've got to go with the rock solid Oreos.
Okay. Over to you, Kev.
2 seed.
Oreos.
Unanimous.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think, Owen, the producer? Never mind. All right, here we go. #3 seed, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Some people thought they would come in as a #1 seed.
Oh, wow.
Versus #6 seed, Cheetos.
Ooh. Well, I'm going to go...
Cheetos?
Yeah, not the
Flamin' Hot ones?
No, just regular cheese Cheetos,
Okay.
not the crunchy, just the big puffy ones.
We've already got a cheese contestant in, and I would even choose this even if we didn't. I'm going to go Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the 3 seed advances on my board.
What do you think?
You know, who doesn't like peanut butter? You know?
Yeah.
So we gotta go.
Okay, another unanimous decision, the 3 seed,
If
and
he's
now
the expert, him and I have been
I know.
locked in sync,
you
so
have
I
been.
think I'm an expert now,
All
too.
right, here we go. The closest matchup in the first round. 4th seed, Gummy Cluster Nerds. Zach, do you want to explain that?
No, there's no explanation. There's just candy out there.
What is
Nerds
it? It's
gummy
like a
clusters.
rope.
It's like nerds with like gummy thing in the middle.
Okay. Versus the tried and true #5 seed. It's made it to the tournament for the last 57 years.
Yeah.
Pringles.
Once you pop, you can't
Whoa,
stop.
Can't stop.
that is so different.
We got the newcomer versus the tried and true.
But I'll tell you what, Chris.
Yeah.
Nerds gummy clusters are new on the market, so maybe there's not the name recognition.
Right.
But this past Halloween, they blew me away. I'm going Nerds gummy clusters.
All right, Kevin, what do you think? You're the deciding vote.
Man, Zach, your choices are good, dude. Like, have you tried this rope, you guys? Like,
It's good.
It's
legit.
Addicting.
It's legit.
It's addicting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
I know.
love Pringles.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. There's
This
so
is
much
tough.
savory.
Oh, we're going into overtime on the 4v5. We're in overtime.
Let's go with the nerd rope. It's okay.
My gosh.
Let's do it.
The number 4 advances. Okay, we are in the final 4 of junk food. Here we go. Final 4. Vegas cannot believe that Cheez-Its advanced as the number 8 seed versus number 2 Oreos. Are you kidding me? Can the Cinderella team from Cheez-Its advance to the championship, or will it be the tried and true Oreos at number 2 coming in at 30-1 this season?
Oh,
I'm going Cheez-Its for the victory.
Oh, Kevin.
it's got to be Oreos, dude.
All right.
You're the expert. That's fine.
That's
fine.
That is the correct answer. Cheez-Its should have never been on this list. Cheez-Its are awful.
Hey, they at least got a little more recognition getting past that first contestant.
There's a lot of people visiting Cheez-Its website for the first time trying to enroll their kids in their school. All right.
That's right.
Number 3, to see who goes to the championship, we have Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. They're like the Notre Dame, they're loved, versus the brand new team, number 4 seed, Gummy Cluster Nerds.
For me, it's without a doubt Nerds gummy clusters for the victory.
Do you own stock in Nerds Gummy Clusters?
Maybe.
Oh, man.
I mean, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, that is hard to beat.
Yeah, it's good.
And I feel like, I feel like you can over sugar with that.
Nerds are so refreshing, though.
Yeah.
They're so refreshing.
You're
I don't know
right.
what to do.
You're right.
Let's just go with the Nerds rope. Let's do
my
it.
gosh!
Let's let the new team
Yes.
in.
Wow.
Yes.
Can the new team run the gamut?
I didn't think that was going to get out
That
of the
is
first round.
unbelievable. Number 2 seed in the grand championship of junk food. This is it. We are from the Mercedes-Benz Auditorium right now. This is a championship. Is it Oreos, number 2 seed, or the number 4 seed? The up-and-comer. They just went D1 last year. Number 4 seed, Gummy Cluster Nerds.
For me, I'm on a mission. I found it. It's new. It's the gospel. It's Nerds Gummy Clusters for the overall win.
I can't believe it.
I would have picked that one no matter what Kevin would have done on any of them, but I want to hear from the expert.
The expert gets the final call.
I will have to say the reason why I'm making this decision is because the Oreo in so many different formats is so good. I'm imagining the Nerds in other formats, and it's just not.
It's not going to do it.
Going to do it.
Right. You're right.
So Oreos, it is.
The
man.
grand
it's just too
championship
many.
snack. We have figured out Oreos.
Well, I don't know, Kevin. I feel like this could be a TikTok video for you of putting the top 8 junk foods in a bracket.
I have an idea.
We have so many ideas for Kevin. I think we're in the wrong industry. I want to be in the food entertainment industry.
What about an Oreo entertainment restaurant? What do you think, buddy?
That's the thing.
I know.
Oreos is so crazy
Right.
that I could make an entire dessert brand,
Right.
like restaurant, out of them.
I know.
I can.
You can have
nuts.
that. I only take 4%.
We'll talk royalties after. We'll sign on the dotted line.
We got some. I'll fax over some contracts.
Kevin,
I
we
love
love
it.
it, man. We had so much fun with you. Hey, if people want to connect with you these days online, where can they find you?
They can find me at the Kevin Saw. SEO is how it's spelled, and that's my. I answer to all that, so that's my personal Instagram. And honestly, it's that handle I think everywhere. So that's how you could reach me. And check out Good Service Podcast, too.
Yeah,
Come on, let's do it.
Hey, and if I get another good idea for a restaurant in the next 15 minutes, do you want to give out your cell phone just so I can text?
Well,
he will to everybody else but Chris. Anyway.
yeah. If you guys are ever in LA, though, I'd love to host you guys.
Dude, we got to come
That'd be
out there. I want to, let's do it.
That'd be fun. Hey, man, Kevin, thanks so much for being with us today. And God bless you, man. Keep it going.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I told you Kevin was a lot of fun. And we had some fun with, I really was hoping that the Nerds gummy clusters would be the greatest of all the junk food. But hey, I'll live to fight another day. They made it to the finals at least. But I love the intentionality that Kevin has as a disciple to use things from our current day, food, video games, and entertainment, and how to maximize these things to help others to be great disciples. Plus, come on, I heard it over and over, and I did it again with Kevin, like when we simply open up God's word, which is what his Bible study is doing, God shows up in powerful ways. So thanks again to our sponsor today, Child Beyond International. You can find out about the great work they do at childbeyond.org. If you are a pastor or church leader looking for a transformative one-week mission experience that not only will change a life overseas in Guatemala, but the people who go from your church, you got to link in with Jeff Mueller and his team at childbeyond.org. And again, I'll be having a webinar with Jeff Mueller on April 11th for our Red Letter leaders. You can find the link to register for that free webinar at our show notes, which is all found at redletterpodcast.com. And speaking of Jeff, next week, I'm actually going to have him as a guest on the podcast. He pastors a church in Hawaii. So we'll talk about how rough it is to be a disciple in Hawaii. Insert sarcasm there, by the way. But we're going to dive into why it's so important that we invest in the lives of the one that everyone else might miss. It's going to be great, so don't miss it. And the best way to ensure that you don't is to subscribe or follow on whatever platform you are listening to. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can do the same there and subscribe to our channel at Red Letter Living. Thank you so much for listening, and we love you, and we're excited to come back next week for a brand new episode.